All right, guys. This is a very special guest of mine, old friend from the past. His name is Alex Vargas. We met in prison in Tulcan, Ecuador in 2001. Who would have thought that we would be here today, 23 years later, talking to each other? And we're about to share his story, which is remarkable, deserves movies, miniseries. I mean, it's just crazy. So, for everyone, this is Alex. And Alex, let's get into your story. And I appreciate you coming in to the show today.
Yeah, definitely. Most definite, Oscar. I'm so glad to see you, brother. Also, I thought we were never going to survive. I thought we were just going to die, where we were for sure. That was just a cemetery with walking people all over the place. But, we're here. God's good. God is
That's
good.
that's right. That's right, man. So, tell us about your life, how it started, how you decided to get into the game, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Okay, yeah, brother. Well, first of all, I give the honor and the glory to God to have me here speaking on your show, to have me here standing because there's no other way that I could explain it. It wasn't in my own strength, it wasn't in anybody's strength. It was just the Lord that got me here. Okay, so yeah, basically, I've gone through a very rough life. I'm talking about, I'm sure that you'll be showing images here and there, but yeah, I've gone through some crazy things. I mean, I've gone from a gang member to a mafia hitman to a drug trafficker, and now it turned up to be some type of evangelist who just talks to uh, rehabilitation centers and people that are locked up and tries to give them a ounce of hope that they have lost throughout the years. But basically, yeah, everything is very simple. I grew up in Cali, Colombia. Everybody calls me white boy gringo. They think that I'm a Native American because obviously, yeah, I am like a Native American. I'm one of them multicultural guys that doesn't know exactly where he's from. And people sometimes don't understand that, but we go through hell, when we're multicultural because, nobody wants us, we're just like on our own. If we are in the States, hey, this guy's not really American. And then if we're in Colombia, hey, this guy's not really Colombian and all that. So, it's just that type of deal. Yeah, I was born in Cali, Colombia, South America, home of the drug cartels of the Cali cartel, next to Medellin, where Pablo Escobar was from. And I was born actually in those years, in those same exact years where hell broke loose in Colombia. That's when I was born.
Wow, that
Okay,
must
so
have been
yeah,
crazy. Wow. Okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, that was some crazy stuff. I really didn't know so much about it, because as a child, you don't know what's going on. Years later, I found out that my dad had been involved like in the guerrilla welfare and with actually gun trafficking. And my dad was a little crazy himself, but uh, that's why my mom decided to go back to live in the States. Her family started immigrating to America from the 60s, more or less. So I have family that started uh, their lives over there in the 60s, cousins that were born over there. So yeah, I got American family also,
Okay. Okay.
with Colombian heritage. Okay, so nevertheless, yeah, I was about 3 or 4 years old, like yeah, like 3 or 4 years old when my mother decided to, flee Colombia and start her life back in the States. So yeah, I got over there. Obviously, I started going to school there, to kindergarten, elementary school. I'm just a typical American. I went through the whole stages. I played American football, went to the prom,
Nice.
but unfortunately, since my mother didn't have the best economical status, obviously she ended up moving to not to a low resource neighborhood. We kind of moved to the hood. So yeah, I was raised in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in Sunrise Boulevard. White boy walking around Sunrise. It wasn't very common, but that's where I was. I went to Village Elementary School in Sunrise, then moved up to Sunrise Middle School, ended up in Boyd Anderson High School. Yeah, and it was always a struggle because he looks like a white boy. Let's try him like a white boy, but he's not a white boy. I had to go through
Yeah,
all
yeah.
those
Alex,
phases, so
Alex,
you can
let me
imagine.
ask you, when was your first interaction with the gang in, say, maybe high school on the streets?
Yeah, basically, in the neighborhood that I was born, there was gang activity already there in the neighborhood. So my mother, she had to work like three jobs, all day. So she would lock us up in the house in an apartment complex. So obviously we would sneak out of the attic. We would climb up the attic and go into the next door neighbor's house, and then we would go out his window and go outside, go swimming. So we started going swimming and playing with little friends here and there. And those little friends here and there, obviously their big brothers, their cousins were in the gang already. So they were trying to get you also gang
Course.
orientated. So we started like, jumping in that little gang. Then we started stealing here and there. And then we found out that since we could go into our next door neighbor's house through the attic, and this was
Yeah.
a big old apartment complex, then we started just going into everybody's house through this attic, and we would go in there. So since we were children, we were not stealing yet, but we would go into the fridge and steal cereals and eat sandwiches and all that crap.
Wow, that's crazy.
Crazy thing. Then we started getting older, obviously. Then we started knowing about the money value that people sold drugs, there were drive-by shootings and all that in the neighborhood. So we started getting really early into that. I'm talking about I was approximately 9 to 10 years old. From 8 years old, I already started smoking marijuana. One time we broke into a car and we went into the glove compartment and found a big old quarter ounce of weed, and we also found a gun. So now imagine a 10-year-old, 11-year-old little kid with all that weed and a gun. So we immediately broke into this abandoned house and we went over there and started smoking. I remember that time. I thought we thought we were Superman, and we were like in the second floor. I don't know. We were jumping onto the first floor, and we were so high that we were saying we were Superman. It was crazy, and with a gun. So then we ended up selling that gun to this guy that was like the neighborhood drug trafficker that bought guns and he used to sell minors cars and all of that. It was just a
Okay.
really it was just a really crazy story, man. So we started going into all these little apartments, and mom would come home and beat us up because she would know that we had gone out the house, and she would spank us hard as hell. And we never knew how she found out. Well, obviously, when she got home, we had red eyes, and she would like smell our hair, and she could smell the chlorine of the pool in our hair. So she knew we were out. So she would, yeah. And then then in school, we started getting suspended for fighting, for all types of gang activities, fighting other gangs, rival gangs in high school. And
Alex, let
then
me ask you,
yeah,
at what age did you join your gang?
Yeah, I joined my gang approximately when I was 12 years old officially.
Okay, and what was the
Officially, we
name? What was the
started.
name of your gang,
The
if you
name
can't
was
say?
Folk Nation. We
Okay.
Folk Nation. We used to throw up the forks like that,
Okay, yeah, I have a picture with you in the jail in
and
Tulcan, and you're throwing up the forks. Yeah,
throwing up the pitchfork. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So we were in Folk Nation. Yeah, that is a very old gang, and it came from Chicago. And then it's got its history. Yeah, and they are affiliated with the blues and blacks. They're
Okay,
like in that side because gangs are all divided like in colors, and in that
yeah,
age,
yeah.
we were with the black and blues. So yeah, we joined the gang, and then we were hardcore because we were three brothers. So imagine three brothers in school. I mean, you can't mess with one if he's got a big brother. Now
That's right.
imagine if he's got two big brothers, then
Oh,
it's hell. So we were always ganging up on people. So we were
nice.
pretty popular. They used to call us those damn Vargas brothers. They used to tell us those damn Vargas brothers. So, we started going in and out of detention center for all types of reasons. Then we started stealing. Then we started going to Miami, and we met the Latin disciples, which were also Folk Nation. And then, yeah, we were really deep. So we started stealing cars. I remember we began stealing radios, because this guy from Latin Force, he was really an expert at stealing radios. I mean, he'll go in the back, he'll go through your back door and just squeeze over to the radio and cock, cock. He would hit it twice with a screwdriver on the side, and he was out of there in 30 seconds with a radio. And at that time, we were stealing Hyundai radios because those Hyundai radios they used to the Hyundai cars used to come with Panasonic radios. So
Nice.
those were the ones they paid the most for because they were digital and all that crap. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And it was so easy. I mean, we would just wake up like at 2 o'clock in the morning, more or less, and we would go to one of those streets where all the cars are parked in front.
Yeah.
And from there to there, I mean, you would see at least 10 or 15 Hyundais. So that means
Alex,
one would, yeah.
and where would you sell those radios? You take it to a chop shop, you take it to a pawn
Yeah, those
shop?
radios, we would take it to the chop shop, or we would take him to Nicky. Nicky is the guy I told you about that I sold the first gun to that we stole.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah, he would go and he would buy everything. And then he would give you whatever he wants. And he would sell you cars also. He would sell you used cars. At that
Oh,
age, everybody wanted a Buick Regal. Everybody wanted to get into a Regal
yeah,
or a
yeah.
Cadillac, one of them long old Cadillacs. And that's what we started hanging around in, putting boom in it. And that's what we used to do, just steal. And then obviously, interact with the drug activity. We had to sell our parts of the drug. We had to sell crack here and there. And then after that, obviously from the three brothers, I don't know, there's always like one that takes more risk. I was the risky guy. I was the one that was always going. I was the one that was always crossing the line. If you had
Yeah.
to shoot somebody, I was ready to shoot. If we had to hurt somebody, I was the first one there always.
Alex,
So
do,
then
do you remember your first shooting?
yeah, I remember my first shooting. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah,
How was it? Can you describe that for us?
the first shooting was actually a drive-by shooting. Because once we had weed and money and everything, then the mission was to go out and look for uh your
You'd go
rival gang.
hunting.
Go hunting,
Yeah.
exactly. So we would go in our little cars with our guns and just start seeing who we could find. So one time we some guys drove up next to us, they started shooting the crown, and then we
Yeah.
started shooting the pitchfork. Oh yeah, come on, let's get out. And so we started like singing, like, come on, stop there. We were gonna fight there. So
Yeah.
yeah, so they got ahead of us, and then they stopped in the corner and they all got out with their colors and were ready to fight. And as soon as we hit that corner, like to get out of the car, allegedly, boom, nobody got out the car. We just all took our guns out and started shooting. So that
Wow.
was like my first drive-by gang shooting.
Okay.
What happened? Who knows? Only
Who
God
knows?
knows. And it's better not to talk about that stuff
Yeah,
because
we'll
you don't
leave
want to know.
that part out. Yes.
Yeah, we'll leave that part out, but we don't know what happened. I'm sure people got hurt here and there.
Yeah.
And then after that, I started meeting Colombian people,
Okay.
Colombian traffickers, and they knew that because Colombians didn't like too much the gang activity, but they
Yeah.
just wanted their trafficking activity. But at the same time, if they could hire gang members to do things for them, they would.
Oh,
So
nice.
so I met a crew that used to work for some Colombian traffickers, and they met me and they loved me, man. They loved me because I was quick with a gun. I was good at shooting, and not only that, but I was tough, man. I would just come up to anybody, heads up. I wouldn't think about it. I wouldn't get nervous. Okay, we got to go do this. Let's go. I would be the first one out the car, ready to control and do what I had to do. So
Young
they
and
loved me. So
reckless.
they threw me in that gang, and that gang was all about trafficking. Like they would take drugs for the cartel from one place to another. And on our free time, when we weren't doing like one of those runs, then we would go and start breaking into houses, like doing home invasions at that time, which was really crazy. You would knock on somebody's door with flowers or something, and once they opened the door, you'd go in, you'd tie everybody up and start doing all kinds of crazy things, just
Wow.
stealing. So
Yeah.
at that time, that was called home invasions. I remember that was hitting 15 mandatory in prison.
Wow.
Luckily, and that nothing ever happened with that, but I did get caught for. I mean, I started my criminal activity life.
Yeah.
Nothing that
Alex,
I'm proud of right now. I do want to leave that clear.
I'm sorry.
I do want to leave that clear that I'm not proud of none of that stuff. But once we're talking about that, we get like
Of course. Yeah. I
adrenaline,
mean,
and you get
yeah,
into
I understand. You get into the motion, you feel it. Like I've spoken about stories that I get goosebumps because you're living
yeah,
that
yeah.
again in your life. So yes, completely clear that we want to get the story out for everyone to hear and to not do what we did. We want to let you guys know that this is not the life. We lived it, so you won't have to. All right. So sorry, Alex. Keep
Exactly.
going.
Exactly. So then, yeah, everything came to a stop with my first prison sentence. That was in 1987. We found out that some rival gang members, they were called Untouchables. They were Jamaicans. And this Jamaican gang was, oh, okay, wait, before that, we went up so much into the gang activity that we created our own clique that was called the Colombian Gangsters Disciples. We were Folk
Okay.
Nation. We were sponsored by Folk Nation, but we were just an exclusive gang that was mainly all Colombians. They were like all Colombian Americans, Colombians,
You guys
Colombians that were
branched
born in
out.
America, but were children. They were drug dealers' children or something like that. But they had something to do with the mafia. So that
Okay.
was our little gang.
Okay.
So that little gang was fighting with the Untouchable, which was a Jamaican gang, which were also like us, but with their Jamaican generations, weed
Okay.
selling weed and cocaine. So at that time, the drug cartels were fighting with these Jamaicans because Jamaicans were to take trying to take over the Colombians' drug business, which they would never do because the drugs were produced in Colombia and the big cartels, they owned all that over there. But they were trying to control things there in Miami, distribution wise, and all that crap. So, in our young gang, we wanted to kill them, and they wanted to kill us, and that would make with this way we would prove ourselves, so that the cartel people would look at us like, oh wow, these guys. So we were driving by, and they told us they snitched on us that they were at a skating rink. I remember it was called Nepentha Skaterama, where they would go
Okay.
skating
Yeah.
there and
Yeah. Yeah.
playing pool. I don't know if you heard of that.
Yep.
So we decided we were gonna go shoot them niggas. So we said, okay, what we're gonna do is very simple. We're gonna get these guys, man, and and I'm sorry I used that word that I just used, but it just flashed back.
It
We
comes
grew
out.
up with
It's all
black
right. It comes
people,
out. Yeah.
Wiggers or whatever. So, anyways, getting to that point, we said, okay, so we made the plan. My brother and another kid would go into the skating ring. They would do the dancing deal. My brother was a very good dancer, so all the girls loved him, and he had that Rico, he had that Latin look. So girls would eyeball him. So we decided that he would go in there, start the little dancing deal, and in the days era, whoever's dancing really good, everybody would crowd up and watch. And then he would start just, stacking and throwing up the gang signs and
Yeah.
this and
Yeah.
that. And once he did that, hell was going to break loose because the guys were going to be there. They're not going to permit that in their turf. So basically, what would happen? Obviously, the fight would, there would be a fight there.
Uh-huh.
And then obviously they would call gang control at that time, which was a gang unit for the police. And they would do the same procedure. They would take both gangs out of the discotheque. They would line them up on a wall, put folk here, put untouchables here. They would check them out for their record to see if they're wanted or not. They would take pictures and put them in their little, database. And that's it. So while they did all that, the plan was that I would come once they had them lined up. I would come from behind with an Uzi and 9mm that we had at that time, and we would just spray them all. That was the plan, the famous plan. And who was the chosen one who volunteered and would want to do that? Well, it was me, the soldier, the guy that, I mean, just thinking about it gets me goosebumps still. And I just thought about, oh, yeah, just spraying them all. And once the police try, I'll spray them too, And we had the getaway car ready. Everything was organized. So we hid the guns. There was a McDonald's right on the corner. So we hid the guns under a dumpster. I went and parked my car normal, like nothing. I saw everything happening. Then once they had them all lined up outside, I said, okay, here it goes, party time. So I'm going to go get them guns out of the dumpster, from the bottom of the dumpster, loaded everything up and came out. As soon as I came out the dumpster, for the glory of God, because if I probably would have been sentenced to, at that time, I probably would have been sentenced to the electric chair, definitely, because I would have killed a few of them, plus police. Oh, man, things would have gone really deep for me if they would have caught me, right? And at that time, people didn't think about, oh, I'll just kill them and then shoot myself. We weren't Kamizaki, so forget that. I wasn't going to shoot myself. So as soon as I came out the dumpster with everything ready to spray them, man, and I was walking, I took like 9 steps when I hear somebody say, hey, you stop. Oh man, out of my luck, I could say good luck because I'm not in prison. And at that time I would have said bad luck because we didn't, complete the mission. There was a cop, eating in McDonald's, I guess he was eating some hash browns and fries. This wasn't your normal Dunkin' Donut cop. He was over there doing the hash brown deal. So, oh man, this big fat cop comes out. Hey, stop! With 2 weapons in my hand. So he immediately took out his gun. So what could I do? I was too far to spray them. If not, I
Yeah.
probably would spray them and try to spray him, but I was too far. I had to cross like a little, grass area.
Okay.
And I was like, oh crap. So I couldn't do anything. So I had to start running, man. What was I going to do? With two guns?
Did you
Couldn't
drop the
think about
guns?
killing the
Run?
cop because if I shot the cop, then obviously, the other cops over there with the gang would look at me and then they would shoot me. It would just go. So the only thing I could think of is to just run,
Okay.
the Arabian characters run. So I just started running, bro, for my life, and I couldn't get to the car because he was too close. So by the time I got with the car, he would shoot me or stop me. Who knows? So I just had to start running like a crazy man. And then that guy, I guess he called back up. The next thing I knew, I had a helicopter across. There was a helicopter also on in the clouds. Police sirens everywhere. Oh man, oh crap! And then I just started running and running. And then when I was way over there, where I knew I couldn't, I couldn't get rid of this guy. I just said, "What the heck?" So I just turned around and started shooting him.
Oh my.
Man, I was so. What the closest bullet that went to him was like right here, got him like between the ear and his eye. It glazed him like that. Can you
Wow.
believe it? I didn't. That guy was lucky. So, but I did hit him with one in his shoulder.
Okay.
So the next thing I know, 17-year-old guy in the county jail,
Oh
locked
no.
up for attempted murder on a Leo.
Oh man.
Man, they didn't charge me because they didn't know what was happening. But I just got attempted murder on a Leo, and they threw me in with the big people. They didn't even take me to the detention center. They put me in with the adults immediately,
Wow.
and the cops were really mean. The cops started coming up to me and telling me that that the cop died and that I was going to go to the. And at that time they had that little commercial: "Kill a cop, die in the chair." Remember?
Wow. That's crazy.
So I was like facing allegedly right there that night. I was going to the electric chair,
Oh my.
and the cops were having fun with that. They would just go by myself and say, "Yeah, you're going to the chair, man. That cop
Alex,
died."
what was going through your mind when all this was happening as a 17-year-old?
As a 17-year-old, I don't know. There was so much frustration, but it's hard to say that since I had grown up in these little detention centers and I had so much hate already built it up with gangs and life itself and this and that. It's I wasn't really nervous. Actually, as a 17-year-old, I felt proud. I felt proud that I was in prison for something that was or in the county jail for something
Yeah.
that was worth it. And everybody coming, oh my gosh, you were the little boy that tried to kill that cop and this and that. And everybody was like worshiping you as a
Yeah, yeah, you
criminal.
got that
So
fame
they
inside the
boosted
jail.
your head up and you felt this and that. But yeah, obviously deep down inside, the only pain that I had was my mother.
Of
Thinking
course.
about my mother. Oh
Yeah.
man, now when my mother finds out, her heart's gonna break. That was the only thing. Okay, so as things started going like that, then they sent me the next day to a trial motion, which was to waive me over as an adult. So I lost my juvenile rights,
Okay.
and they threw me in normal prison. They threw me on the eighth floor. I remember they used to call it the eighth floor. That was a dangerous floor, bro. That was only uh, juveniles that are adults now,
Okay.
and
Eighth
all
floor of
these
where? Where are you located?
eighth floor. That was in the Broward County Jail.
Okay. Okay. So you're
That
rolling with
was
your
in Brow.
boys now.
Yeah, that was in Broward County Jail. And in the eighth floor is where they have all the minors that were waived over as adults. So you can imagine that all those people are hardcore juvenile criminals because they have done something big, murder, attempted murder, all that stuff, home invasions. They didn't that and everybody in the county jail is trying to prove themselves. And then they throw you in with the other gang rival member, and then you got to kill yourself with that guy in that
Did did
holding
you
some
did
man.
you see anyone from your gang or anyone you knew from the
Yeah,
street?
yeah. Obviously, Folk Nation is a very big gang all over America, man. And even the Crips are down with you at that, in that time because they were always blue and black always. So Crips were always down with you, and yeah, there were everything. There was everything. Latin disciples, Latin force, black gangster disciples. Spanish Cobras. So many gangs that are affiliated to the Folk Nation. So when you went to prison, there was always a Folk Nation in there. Always. I mean,
Okay.
I was never in prison or in jail where there wasn't somebody with a pitchfork. And since you had your tattoos with your pitchforks, you were always identified. But just as well as they were there, there was also the rival gang. So finally, to make that story short, after that jail deal and all that stuff, they convicted me as a felon for the first time. They
Okay.
sent me to a prison, and at the end of the day, I don't know what happened, or how the law, the justice works in the States, but I was convicted for attempted murder on a law enforcement officer with armed violence.
Wow.
That's what I was. That's what I was hit with.
What was
I
your
don't know what
sentence?
happened. Excuse me.
What was your sentence?
My sentence at that time, I think it was, I don't know, it was like 17 or 18 years mandate. I don't remember exactly, or 15
Okay.
mandatory. But what I do know is that after going through a few trials here and there within the county jail, and I guess people have juvenile rights and all that crap, before you know it, they ended up dropping my charge to resisting arrest with armed violence, with
Wow.
no intention to kill a police officer. I don't know. It was some
Okay.
crazy
Okay.
sentence. And
Wow.
that permitted them to only sentence me to so many years. And I remember that I know that I did have 5 years mandatory. And then they sent me to Brevard Youth Correctional Institution in
Wow.
Florida. And that was a crazy place. It's a youth correctional facility, but they are people from, like, in other words, minors that have been convicted as adults. You have people from 15 years old on up there, even younger, and then the highest age you have it are like 27 and 28 years old. But still, you got adults over there that have been
Yeah.
already through criminal activity so long. So I was over there, and when I got locked up over there, then I got locked up with people that were there were people there, many Colombians. They had the little Colombian gang there also.
Okay.
They were all criminals. So there I started meeting a lot of drug traffickers from Colombia. And they knew that I was Colombian also, that I was born in Colombia, even though I was like a white boy because I didn't speak Spanish that well. But I spoke enough to understand them. And then, I started hanging out with them because they would ask me to translate for them here and there. And obviously, I started seeing all the brothers that were very funny. You always got a funny brother in jail that's a comedian and trying to start something. Always going up to the Colombians and saying in English, "Hey, hello, beep, beep. You are a beep and a double beep.
Mm.
How are you?" With a smile. So the Colombian, since he didn't speak English, then he would just say, "Oh, okay, thank you." And he would
Yeah.
say hi to him like all nicely, but actually the guy was insulting him
Of
up and
course.
down. So one time I saw that shot. So, immediately, since I was a little firecracker, immediately I swung on the guy that was saying that to the Colombian, and hell broke loose. They sent me to the hole. And then after that, the Colombians were mad at me. "Hey, what are you doing? Starting problems for us here." It isn't. Explained it to the big boss over there. I said, "Oh, this guy's laughing in your face. He's saying that your mother is a beach and that she does this and that and that you this and that. And when you are saying hello to them, they're just laughing at you." "Oh, really?" Oh. So then that time, a war started between Colombians and these brothers and this and that.
Okay.
And then, I was always involved there. So they started looking at me like some type of protection or guy that was there to tell them and protect them from whatever was happening in the prison. Okay, so basically that's what started going on. That was my first prison term, and then from there, obviously before that serious prison term, I had already been to a correctional facility. I had already
Okay.
been to a correctional facility for burglary and some other things, armed, for resisting arrest, also for having a weapon on me. I
Alex,
forgot how.
how long was that prison term for? How much did you end up doing?
That prison term, I ended up doing like almost 5 years because they started repatriating Colombians.
Okay.
They started, you see, Colombians, back in those Pablo Escobar and drug cartels, they manipulated the governments in both countries and all that.